Since offline events have returned, there have been a good amount of major tournaments that have showcased the best players that the world has to offer. Unfortunately, there hasn't been that much crossover between regions such as Europe and Japan, so we won't get to see players such as Gluttony versus MKLeo, for example. So, with that, I decided to make a top 10 North American list instead of trying to make a top 10 around the world list. I just think it's not enough data to make anywhere near an accurate list. So, with that, just know that these are my opinions. There's some data back to it, but they are my opinions, and it's a little hard to do a top 10 list. There's a few different margins that you have to use between like worst losses and best wins and placements, consistency. So I'm not the best metric to decide who's exactly where in the top 10, but I do think these players are in the top 10 area for sure. And with that being said, we are going to get into the top 10 list. Now, before we get started, I did want to mention something. There's a lot of good players in this game, and there's a lot of talent all over the place. Players like Tilde, Wadi, Charlie the King, Chag, Riddles. I mean, the list goes on. There's so many different players I could have included, but I felt like I would have been going on forever and eventually started making a top 30, maybe even a top 50 list. So I tried to limit it as best as possible so that I could just go with the top 10 list with a few honorable mentions. I guess this is the HMs of the HMs. And yeah, so let's get into the honorable mentions. First up on our honorable mentions, we have Void. Now, Void's only gone to one event, so it's a little hard to place him. But he did do very well at the event. It was Smash Ultimate Summit, where he managed to place 5th. He did get a win on Meister here. So I think if he were to go to more events, we could kind of see where he may stand. But even then, just being able to stand up to these monstrous players gives him a spot on this list for me. And next up, we have Lima. Lima has been dominating Texas and doing it quite well when he's been traveling, sporting a 17th at Low Tide City out of over 1,000 entrants and a 9th at Super Smash Con with over 700 entrants. Also been doing very well at regionals, getting a 5th at CypherCon and winning Just Roll With It 13 yesterday over Puppe, Goblin, and Don Clavius. I think Lima's very, very close to cracking the top 10 list, and over time he's just been getting better and better, and we may see him there soon. And next up we have MVD. MVD just recently won the North American West Smash World Tour offline regional event and sported a 4th place at Super Smash Con Fall Fest. Unfortunately, a 17th at Port Priority and a 33rd at Riptide kept him off of being top 10 on this list. And this is when the list becomes sort of difficult to make. It kind of just depends on what you value, peaks or consistency. Louis Money has gotten top 8 at every single event he's gone to. He's a very consistent player and obviously one of the best that North America has to offer. His peaks aren't quite there with the people that I listed above him. He doesn't have those super top player wins on like the 1 through 5s, 1 through 8s of the list. So I put him on honorable mention, but it could be a very solid argument for him to be top 10. I'm actually having a really hard time doing this. I think Cosmos is going to be next for me. Just because of the 49th at Riptide, I think if that weren't there, then I would easily place him 10th on the top 10 list. But between him and the next two people that I'm going to say, it's just way too difficult. And I decided to give the nudge to the person that will be 10th. You know, if I made this list like a week and a half ago, I for sure would have had Elegant in 10th. But I think the second 17th at Poor Priority just nudged the player above him slightly better. Not too much better, but in terms of like the performance that I value, I think that the player above him is slightly better. Skill-wise, I don't know how that translates, but just based on the results, I think that the player above him deserves the spots a little bit more, but who cares? It's just my opinion. Which brings us to our number 10 player on the list, Goblin. Just like Louis Money, Goblin has top 8'd every single event that he has gone to since offline's come back, at least the major ones. And he also has a tweak win, which is the slight difference between him and Louis Money. If, again, this were 2 weeks ago, I probably would have been into Elegant just because 2/4 is a little strong. But the 217s bumped him slightly out of the spot. So I currently think that Goblin is the 10th best player in North America. And coming in at number 9, we have Esam. Now, it's funny I keep saying this, but if I had made this list literally 2 days ago, even, this list would have been different. Esam would have been much higher, but we're starting to see some inconsistencies in his play with him losing to Wrath, Icy Mist, Apollo Kage. He's losing to players that are a lot lower ranked than the other players above him would on this list. So it's kind of hard to place him despite him having 2 wins on MKLeo, which only one other person on this list has done in a single tournament since quarantine has ended. And coming in at number 8, we have Mars. Now, I know some of you may be wondering, wait a second, didn't Mars get 33rd at Riptide? Gasp. Well, he lost to Leon and Anathema, who are incredible players. Not to say that Icy Mist, Apollo Kage, and Wrath aren't, who I did just say something about Esam losing to, but I think some people would rate them a little higher. It just kind of depends on who you ask. Other than that, he is very consistent. We have a much larger sample size. He does have wins over Meister, wins over Cola. And when you check his losses, when he gets these 7ths or when he gets these placements, they're really good losses. I mean, when he got 7th at Glitch, he lost to Cola and Meister, who are also top 10 players. Spoilers, they're on this list. Who would have guessed it? So I think Mars is very deserving of the number 8 spot. Nose could go up, could go down, depending on who you ask. It just depends on what you value. And coming in at number 7, we have the King of New York, Dabuz. Now, Dabuz is quite an interesting phenomenon. He does have a 2nd place where he actually beat Leo in that event. And he also has a 17th and a 13th where his losses were Jackal, who was playing on fire that event, and Wadi. And then the other event was Cosmos and Wadi. So he's losing to very good players. And he's also able to beat very good players. So I think that I value that slightly over Mars's performances and Esam's recently. And that gives him number 7. Yeah. For number 6, we have Cola. Now, again, need to mention it. If this were made a few days ago, he probably would have been around the number 8 spot. But because he just won Smash World Tour North American East Regional, I decided to bump him up a little bit. He can be a little inconsistent. His 65th at Riptide, 217th. But his peaks are so high. 3rd at Glitch and 1st here, did very well at SmashCon also. And usually if he loses, it's always game 5. I think like it's hard to not put that consideration in when I'm looking at data and stuff like that. So I just decided that I think Cola should be at number 6. Very talented player and definitely one of my favorites to watch. And starting our top 5 players in North America, we have Light coming in at 5th. Now, Light's an interesting case. He hasn't really been to too many events, but the events he's gone to, he's done very well. A lot of people were kind of being like, oh man, he got 17th at that MSM and didn't qualify for Summit. But ever since then, he has been doing very well. 1st at GamerCon, 5th at Glitch, losing 2 Game 5s and some of the worst matchups in the game against Esam and Meister, who's also top 10 players. And he won SmashCon. So, I mean, dude's been doing very well recently and definitely a threat at any event that he goes to. And I'm looking forward to see how he does at future events. Coming in at number 4, we have Meister. And Meister is Mr. Consistency. He has placed top 5 at every major event that he has gone to. He has wins on incredible players. Mars, Light, Spargo, even. Like he's beating pretty much everyone. He's just missing that one Leo or Tweak win that would really push him over the edge. But man, this is a very consistent player, and that lands him at 4th in our top 10 list. I actually had a really hard time deciding who should be 2nd and 3rd. But I decided to go with Spargo because Spargo is missing the very elusive MKLeo win and tournament win. But I just spoke of consistency with Meister. Oh my goodness, Spargo is consistent. The lowest place that Spargo has got at an event is 3rd. 3rd, 2nd, 2nd. On his way to 1st soon if the pattern keeps up. He has wins over pretty much every player that imaginable. except for MKLeo. He even has a Zachary win. Very elusive, hard to get in these current times, and incredible player and definitely deserving of a top 3 spot in North America. And at number 2, we have MKLeo. No, I'm joking. Number 2, we have Tweak. Tweak has been performing very, very well since the offline era has ended, winning Summit, which is the biggest prize pool in Smash history, over MKLeo, actually defeating him twice at that event. Also has wins over Spargo, pretty much anyone imaginable. Very, very talented. Does have a few consistency issues with a 9th place at Low Tide City, losing to Elegant and Goblin, who also were pretty close to this list. Probably top 15, or Goblin's on the list, so top 15, top 10 players. Otherwise, second, third, first, very, very solid player, and very deserving of the number 2 spot. And to finish off our top 10 list, we have Tweak Sephiroth. I meant MKLeo. Who would have guessed it? Whoa. Dude's just incredible. He does not place lower than second. Ever. I don't know how. He's just too powerful. Can't be stopped. Number 1 in NA, number 1 in the world. It doesn't matter. It's all the same. MKLeo.